My husband looked me straight in the eyes and said, "You've always been a burden." Those words were meant to break me. They were meant to shatter whatever little pieces of me were left standing. But instead of tears, instead of anger, something else spread across my face that night, a smile. Because what he didn't know, what he couldn't possibly have imagined, was that his cruelty would be the very key that unlocked my freedom. It all started years earlier when I first met David. He was charming, attentive, the kind of man who seemed to make the world bend around him. I was young, hopeful, and eager to believe in love. At first, he swept me off my feet. Flowers on random days, long late-night talks about dreams and futures, promises of a life where I'd never have to worry again. But what began as warmth slowly turned cold. After the wedding, the compliments grew fewer, and the criticisms louder. He pointed out my flaws like he was tallying them on a chalkboard: too quiet, too weak, too dependent. I told myself marriage was hard work, that I just needed to be more patient, more understanding. But as the years passed, his words cut deeper. Whenever I reached for comfort, he turned away. Whenever I struggled, instead of helping, he made me feel guilty for needing him at all. And every time he reminded me of my failures, I shrank a little more. I gave up my career dreams to support his. I took on the invisible labor of the house, the cooking, the cleaning, the hosting, the smiling in front of his friends, even when inside I was falling apart. And still, nothing I did was ever enough. He called me dramatic. He told me I should be grateful. He said that without him, I was nothing. And then came that night. We were sitting at the dinner table, the air thick with silence. I had spent all day preparing his favorite meal, hoping maybe, just maybe, it would soften him, remind him of the love we once had. Instead, halfway through chewing, he set down his fork, looked at me with those cold, dismissive eyes, and said, "You've always been a burden. From the day I met you. And I'm tired of carrying you." The old me, the me he had spent years breaking down, would have crumbled in that moment. I would have apologized, begged for forgiveness, tried to prove my worth. But something inside me shifted. Maybe it was exhaustion. Maybe it was the last piece of me that refused to die. But instead of crying, I smiled. Because what he didn't know was that for months, I had been preparing. Preparing to leave. Preparing to reclaim my life. I had opened a secret bank account, putting away little bits of money here and there from the household budget he rarely checked. I had updated my resume, reached out to old contacts, and even secured a small apartment on the other side of town. My bags were already packed, hidden neatly in the back of the closet. So when he called me a burden, I realized something powerful. He no longer had any power over me. His words were no longer chains. They were keys. Keys that unlocked the cage I had been trapped in for too long. The next morning, I rose earlier than usual. I cooked him breakfast, set it on the table, and kissed his cheek as if everything was normal. He smirked, probably thinking he had put me back in my place. But once he left for work, I called my brother, the one person who knew everything. "It's time," I whispered. And he came, strong and steady, helping me load my bags into the car. Leaving that house was like walking out of a storm into sunlight. I expected to feel fear, but what I felt was peace. A peace so deep it made me cry, not tears of sadness, but of relief. The first few weeks were not easy. Freedom never comes without struggle. I had to adjust to living on my own again, budgeting carefully. Juggling my new job while healing from the years of emotional abuse. Nights were the hardest, lying awake, haunted by his voice, hearing the words, "You're nothing without me," echo in my mind. But each morning, when I got up and faced the day, I proved him wrong. I was something. I was more than something. I was enough. Months passed, and my life slowly transformed. My career began to thrive. I reconnected with old friends who reminded me of the vibrant woman I used to be. I started painting again, a passion I had abandoned long ago because he once said it was a waste of time. And most importantly, I learned to love myself, not the broken version he wanted me to believe in, but the whole, imperfect, resilient me. One afternoon, I bumped into him at the grocery store. He looked surprised, almost shaken, to see me standing there with my head high, laughter in my voice as I chatted with the cashier. He tried to speak, maybe to apologize or maybe to drag me back into his shadow. But I didn't give him the chance. I simply smiled again, the same smile I had given him the night he called me a burden. But this time, it wasn't a secret. It was a declaration. A declaration that I was no longer his victim. Looking back, I realized that night at the dinner table was not the moment he broke me, it was the moment he set me free. His words, meant to crush me, instead became the final push I needed to reclaim my life. So yes, my husband looked me in the eyes and said, "You've always been a burden." But I smiled, because I knew something he didn't. I was never his burden. He was mine, and the day I let him go was the day I became weightless. To anyone listening who has been told you're too much, not enough, or a burden, let me tell you this: you are none of those things. You are light, you are strength, and you are worthy of a life where love lifts you up instead of tearing you down. Don't wait for permission to be free. Sometimes the cruelest words are the very signs pointing you to your freedom.